Hey everybody, it's Pastor Siri. I'm a Lutheran pastor and a spiritual seeker. And if you're joining me for the first time, welcome. I am super excited about today's topic. We're going to talk about reincarnation. Take a listen. So I've been wanting to do this for quite a while, actually. If you are like me and you grew up Christian, reincarnation was not something that we ever talked about. In fact, many Christians sort of believe that all truth about the universe and the way things go must be revealed in the Bible. And so if it's not in the Bible, then it can't be true. Well, it's a little problematic when you start digging deep into that. However, I grew up, like many of us, not thinking or really knowing much about what reincarnation was until I was introduced to it, probably at some point in high school and then into college. And I even took in college a religion class that introduced me to Eastern religion and thought, which really blew my mind, was a little hard for me to understand and comprehend. Took another class on Hinduism in seminary, still a little bit hard for me to comprehend and understand. But over the years, as I have been a seeker and continued to learn and explore both within my Christian faith, but beyond it as well, I've come to understand the sense that reincarnation makes. And so I'm going to take you a little bit on the journey of what I believe about that and why and all that good stuff. So first, it's important for us to know that a lot of other religions, in fact, a vast majority of indigenous religions and other religions that do not come from the Abrahamic faith do believe in reincarnation. So this is a very common and prevalent theme. And it's easy for us to dismiss other people who do not have our points of view. It's a very spiritually arrogant way of doing things. We assume our religion is right. We assume that our religion has all of the truth and understanding. And so if there's certain things that come from other faiths, we kind of can laugh at it and consider it to be wrong. And unfortunately, I think Christianity is pretty spiritually arrogant. And we won't even learn very much about what those other faiths are and what they believe before dismissing and belittling them. In fact, I think you could probably ask most Christians to say as much as they know about Hinduism or Buddhism or Islam, and it would be a very, very short speech and possibly very wrong as well. And that has been one of my goals, is to not be that way, to truly be able to articulate other people's faith in a way that they would agree is true. So in the process of me learning about other faiths, and this is true of kind of New Age and pagan and indigenous, as well as Eastern religions, reincarnation is the norm. It's something that they believe in, it's something they teach, but even more than that, it is something that people have experienced, meaning there are people who have memories of past life experiences that cannot be explained in any other way. And again, you kind of have to trust the person who's saying that in order to believe that that encounter is true. But just like near-death experiences and angel encounters and visions that people have, you can dismiss all of that. You can poo-poo and say that's all just your brain being crazy. Fine, if that's what you want to go for it. But I'm not that way. I believe that people have real experiences that are not explicable to just our everyday five senses. I believe the universe and the world is so much bigger than that. We're learning through physics now that there is so much more to the unseen world than what we know. And that even the seen world, this matter, is actually more air than it is matter. Physics and science is taking us into places that has only been intuited by religion and spirituality for thousands of years. And so to simply say that what we see is all there is just doesn't work for me, because I've experienced far more than that. And so when people do say that they have visions and encounters, or if they have had past life memories, I believe that. But the other reason why I've come to believe in reincarnation is it makes so much more spiritual sense. If you were the creator of the entire universe and you were creating these little souls that you wanted to have a relationship and you wanted them to know you, does it make sense that in all of infinity, in the billions and billions and billions of years that our universe has been around so far, and the billions stretching out potentially in front of us, that you would take a little soul and put it in a human body to potentially die in utero, to die by the age of 5, maybe to have a glorious 100 years of life. And that's it. And in that time period, from utero through 100 years or so, they're supposed to learn everything they need to know about God, themselves, and the universe, and potentially even make a choice and believe in the right thing so that they don't go to eternal conscious torment. That doesn't make any bit of sense whatsoever. It makes way more sense that when God's birthing the universe, that there are parts of God that become conscious and that come and have this human experience, and that consciousness continues to learn and to learn and to learn and keeps coming back to earth and back to earth to learn more and more and more lessons. That until there's a certain spiritual evolution and maturity that is achieved, that soul wants to come back and have the experience. And it's not something that can happen on the spiritual plane alone. Just think of it this way. This is really helpful for me. If you want to get strong, you want your body to get lean and strong, you want to get more flexible, you want to get faster, you have to work out. As sad as it is, you can read all of the books that you want to about exercise and diet and nutrition. And you can also watch all sorts of YouTube videos by famous personal trainers. But that's not going to help you. You have to get to the gym. You have to go to the yoga class. You have to physically put yourself into a place where your body is in stress and discomfort so that it gets stronger, so that it changes. There is a certain level of discomfort our body has to achieve in order to get stronger, more flexible, more mobile. That's how it is. And that's the same thing with our soul. Earth, in many ways, is like going to the gym for the soul, because we can read about fear, we can read about what it's like to walk and to have sexual desire and to want food and to be so rageful that you want to kill someone. We can read about that on our armchair, but there is nothing like coming in the body and experiencing those things that gives you hardcore lessons. So to me, this is a far more generous way for God to deal with things. It also impressed me very much. I Googled this, and you can Google it and maybe there's an updated statistic, but I thought, what percentage on average of human beings that have ever lived on the planet Earth didn't make it to age 5? And they guess it's 40%. 40% of the souls that have ever come to Earth did not even make it past 5. So with that logic, those of us who've grown into adulthood, when we die and go to heaven, assuming you are kind of at the age you died at, it's going to be filled with fetuses, babies, toddlers, children, teenagers, very few wise souls. And that to me is such a waste. It's so silly and it makes no sense. The other thing that's beautiful about reincarnation is that it means you're not stuck and set. It means that people who are really having a horrible time or are doing horrible things in this life, it's just one stop in a long process of learning and growth. And so people who have been really twisted by their pain and their grief and their fear are going to have the chance and the opportunities to work that out and figure that out and find their way to love and empathy. I consider myself a pretty empathetic person, but it very well could be that 500 or 1,000 years ago, I was a complete and total asshole. It could be that I was a murderer or a rapist or somebody who was exploiting the poor or a slave trader or something awful. And I lived through those experiences. I could have been burned at the stake. I could have been, the person who was enslaved as well. And all of those experiences slowly taught my soul empathy and what was good and what was bad, but I had to learn for myself. Now, one of the teachers that really, really helped me understand this in a beautiful way is a sweet man named Ainsley McLeod. And I actually got a chance to have a private session with him via phone a couple years ago, but I had followed him for a while before that and have been a member of his community. And he's written a couple really beautiful books that I encourage, if you're interested in this at all, he really lays it out in a loving way. And one of the ways I love the way he teaches is that it encourages us to have empathy for the way we are on our journeys. He says that basically from the time we very first come down to earth till the time when we graduate, we go through roughly 10 levels of soul understanding. That we might incarnate 1,000 times to get through those 10 soul levels. But he sort of breaks this into new souls, the first 5 categories, and old souls, the next 5 categories. And he says it's pretty predictable. You can sort of watch people and even communities and countries and see what soul age they're at. And the young souls, they really like for things to be simple, black and white, predictable. They're not the ones who are exploring the world. They're not the ones who are coming up with brand new ideas or pushing agendas. They want things to be the way it's always been because that's what they're comfortable with. That's what they know. And it's almost like their brains literally can't handle the grayness and the rainbow colorness and the vastness of what is possibly out there, even in our world. We start out kind of like children, where we need things to be simple and happy and small and comfortable and safe. And then as we learn lessons and grow and learn empathy and other things like that, we slowly transition to becoming older souls where our lessons are much more contemplative and reflective and mature. And then finally, when you kind of get to level 10, we are at the point where we're much more of that calmer mentor type person who really has deep soul values of empathy and compassion and courage and freedom. They just want everybody to have what they need, supporting good causes, peace, love, power to the people. And that's a hard-earned philosophy. That's not just a cheap and easy phrase, but that's like deeply embodied in the old soul. They deeply believe that peace is possible, that there's new ways that are possible. The imagination has been expanded out to believe that things are far bigger than what we ever imagined. And what's helpful for me about this is that I look at people, and even though they're my age or older, they just can't seem to conceive of the complexity of life. They have these ideals that are so black and white, and they're so firm on them, and you start to introduce gray or tell stories that you're hoping will evoke empathy, and they're just, no. They just kind of are closed down because they're so afraid of the openness that might crack open. They're really afraid of things not being black, white, this, that, or the other thing. And it really helps to believe that there may have been a time in history when I was the exact same way. And that it took a lot of lifetimes of me being male, female, gay, straight, black, white, this, that, for me to understand empathy and compassion and justice and mercy. So this gives me a lot more compassion when I look around and see people who are exhibiting kind of young soul behavior, is that I realize they're just on a different curriculum than I am. They're on a different pathway, and there are people ahead of me, there are people behind me. We're all on our journey and path of our soul discovering and learning and our own pace and our own curriculum. And that's the next thing that I want to talk about, that I love the idea of. A lot of people who believe in reincarnation have talked about the idea that in between your lifetime, you sort of you have a beat where you review what you have. You review the life that you just were living, and you're like, oh my gosh, I was really crazy. I kind of exploited a lot of people, and clearly I have issues with money and greed. So I'm going to focus on that when I go back to Earth next time. So in Hinduism, that might be called karma, but some New Age beliefs will say that's a little bit more intentional. It's much more like you working with your spirit guides to figure out what you need to learn and to work on, which I think is super cool. And you take with you, you go back into Earth, you kind of forget, but you take with you fears and gifts and personalities that tell you what you need to work on. I mean, this is to me really, really great proof of reincarnation, is that I have certain fears that I cannot explain from this lifetime. I can't. Even when I was born, my parents said when I was a little baby that they couldn't scold me because I would just start to cry. And they had to speak very, very, very gently to me. And that's something, as I've grown up, I've noticed that when people have really big, loud energy, like strong energy, that it freaks me out and I kind of shut down. And I'm working on that now because my belief is this is the lifetime. This is the lifetime for me to work out some of those fears that I have carried into this life with me. And it could have been that in a very recent life, I had an awful experience of somebody with really big energy who dominated, controlled, and possibly abused me very, very much. And in that lifetime, I didn't have the space or ability to be able to process it. And I do now. Now I'm in a safe place. I'm in a safe family, safe marriage, safe circumstance in life where I can heal that and I can deal with that. At the same time, we often bring in gifts as well, which I think is very powerful. In that, when I first saw piano as a kid, I remember this moment where I looked at it and I was like, I think I should know you. Like, I feel like I know you. And I was so excited when my parents suggested piano lessons. And even though, of course, yes, I had to learn how to play it, it almost felt, like I was relearning, and I learned so much faster than other people. So that is another indication that very possibly in a former life, I already was a musician. I already had experience with the piano. I was just relearning. And so people who show virtuosic ability at a very young age very well could have been professional in a former lifetime, but they still were drawn to that. They still wanted to participate. They still needed to work out that part of themselves in life, which I think is super, super fun. What I love about this perspective is what it says about Jesus. Okay, ready? My opinion about Jesus was that he was someone who had completely gone through all of the levels, and he was a fully enlightened being. He fully understood compassion and the complexity of life. He was deeply one in the Christ consciousness with God, and he was coming back to show people how to progress and move along. He was there to show them the end goal, which was unity with God, unity with humanity, unity with yourself, internal harmony, internal peace, external peace. And that all hinges on love. Like love, mercy, and forgiveness is what heals us of our fears. It's what gives us the space to be able to mature and to grow. And through his stories and through his actions and everything, he was showing the highest, most enlightened version of human understanding for people to understand. And young souls are going to look at this Jesus message, and they're going to pull his message down into what they can understand, which may feel very black and white and sometimes hypocritical to those of us who are old souls. I strongly believe that the Jesus message and the Jesus path fits very much in with old souls. It's just that we see so much young soul behavior of, mega churches with these televangelists who are so focused on power and money and greed, which can be very young soul traps. So it can be very possible that people are watching Christianity and seeing how influenced it's been by young soul values without realizing that Jesus and his message was preliminarily coming from a very old soul. And so that's one of the things I'm trying to reclaim as a pastor, is those old soul values and doing some spiritual archaeology to really discover beyond the patriarchy, behind misogyny, behind the power and control and institution of the church, what is it that Jesus was trying to offer as humans to help in their soul evolution? That to me is so exciting and powerful, and I honestly do not think we have fully dealt with that as Christianity, but I'm excited because I think it's starting to happen. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing, but I do kind of hope that's helpful, and I'm not saying you have to believe in reincarnation. There's nothing you have to believe at all, but I'm telling you why I believe in it, why I think it's a great, helpful spiritual understanding. And if I'm wrong, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. But if I'm right, I guess we'll find out and we'll see. It's just exciting to me because I really believe there's more to the universe than our brains can handle. And it's so fun that we can learn from each other on Earth about the spiritual insights that other people have and what that might mean. So that's what I have for today. I'd love it if you'd like, subscribe, comment, share. That would be wonderful. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.